The airplane hummed softly as it climbed higher into the sky. Passengers settled into their seats, adjusting blankets, opening books, or plugging in their headphones. Among them was Marcus Williams, a tall man with calm eyes and a strong presence. He was an FBI agent on his way home after a long week of work in another city. Dressed in a neat suit, Marcus looked like any other traveler. But beneath his quiet exterior was a lifetime of dedication and hard work. Marcus had been flying many times before, but today felt different. Maybe it was the long hours or the heaviness of the cases he had worked on. He adjusted his seatbelt and looked out of the small window, watching the clouds float past. A soft smile touched his lips as he thought about seeing his family soon. But in the row behind him, a woman was not thinking about clouds or family. Karen Mitchell was angry and impatient. She was in her late 40s, with sharp eyes and a sharp tongue to match. Karen was the kind of person who liked to have control, and on this flight she felt like she was losing it. The seatbelt sign was still on. The flight attendants moved slowly through the aisle, and a few people were taking too long to settle down. When Karen's eyes landed on Marcus, something inside her shifted. It was not a good feeling. She noticed his dark skin and his confident posture. Without thinking, she made a quick judgment. In her mind, Marcus looked suspicious. Karen's voice rose just enough for the people nearby to hear. "Why is that man acting so strange?" she said loudly, pointing at Marcus. "I don't trust him. He's been watching everyone like he's some kind of spy." Marcus heard the words but stayed silent. His face showed no anger, only a quiet sadness. He was used to moments like this, being judged unfairly because of the color of his skin. A few passengers turned to look. Some frowned at Karen, others avoided eye contact. The cabin felt colder suddenly. "Are you serious?" A young woman sitting across the aisle whispered to her friend. "He looks normal to me." Karen ignored the murmurs and continued, louder this time. "I'm telling you, the FBI should be watching him, not the other way around." A flight attendant approached and gave Karen a polite but firm look. "Ma'am, please calm down. There's no need to cause a scene." Karen huffed, but did not stop. She was convinced she was right. Marcus took a deep breath. He knew this could get worse, but he decided not to engage in a fight. Instead, he reached into his briefcase and quietly showed his FBI badge to the flight attendant. "Sir, is this true?" the attendant asked, surprised. Marcus nodded. "Yes, I'm here on official duty, but today I'm just a passenger." The flight attendant's expression softened. She smiled at Marcus, then turned back to Karen. "Ma'am, please understand. There is nothing suspicious here. Sir is an FBI agent and he is not causing any problems." Karen's face flushed with embarrassment. She looked around to see the reactions of others. Some shook their heads at her, disappointed. A few whispered quietly, "That was wrong." Karen wanted to say something else, but the words caught in her throat. The flight continued, but the tension remained. Marcus kept his eyes on the window, thinking about how many times people like Karen had treated him this way. He remembered the names, the places, the moments when his skin made him a target instead of just a man doing his job. A little girl sitting nearby glanced at Marcus with curiosity. She smiled shyly. Marcus smiled back. It was a small moment of kindness, but it meant a lot. Sarah, a young woman sitting a few rows away, watched everything quietly. She was shocked by Karen's behavior, but also inspired by Marcus's calmness. In her heart, she wished more people would stand up against such unfairness. The plane's engines roared softly as the miles passed beneath them. Outside, the sun began to set, painting the sky in colors of pink and orange. Inside, a silent story was unfolding, one about judgment, courage, and the strength to remain human when others lose theirs. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. He was tired, but he was not broken. The flight was long, but this was only the beginning. The airplane cabin settled into a quiet rhythm as the hours passed. Outside the window, the blue sky stretched endlessly, the clouds drifting like soft cotton. Inside, Marcus sat quietly, his hands resting on his lap, his thoughts deep and steady. Though the woman's words from earlier still echoed in his mind, he refused to let them shake him. Marcus had faced prejudice many times before. Growing up, he often felt the weight of unfair judgment. He remembered school days when teachers underestimated him. He recalled neighborhoods where people looked at him with suspicion, even though he had never done anything wrong. But all these moments had shaped his strength and resolve. Now, as an FBI agent, Marcus knew that his work was important. He helped protect people every day, no matter their background or skin color. Still, he also understood that not everyone saw him that way. Some saw only the color of his skin, not the man beneath. As he stared out the window, Marcus thought about his journey. From a young boy dreaming of making a difference to the man who had studied hard and passed the toughest exams. He remembered the long nights of training, the moments when he wanted to give up but didn't. His heart filled with quiet pride. Beside him, the little girl who had smiled earlier looked up again. She whispered to her mother, "He's nice." Marcus caught the words and smiled softly, feeling a small warmth inside. The flight attendants moved down the aisle, checking on passengers with friendly smiles. Sarah, the young woman who had noticed the earlier incident, watched Marcus with respect. She admired how he stayed calm, how he didn't lash out or yell. To her, that was true courage. Sarah's mind raced with questions. Why did people like Karen act with such anger? Why did they judge others without knowing them? She wished she could change the world, one small step at a time. Marcus noticed Sarah's gaze and gave her a nod of thanks. It was a simple gesture, but it meant a lot. For a moment, two strangers shared an unspoken understanding that kindness could rise even in hard times. Meanwhile, Karen sat fuming. Her face was still red from embarrassment, but her mind was confused. She couldn't understand why Marcus had not argued back. In her world, she thought, standing up meant fighting back loudly. But deep down, something was stirring inside Karen. She felt a strange mix of shame and curiosity. What did she really know about the man she had insulted? Had she been too quick to judge? The questions unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. As the plane flew on, Karen's anger softened into silence. She looked at Marcus again, noticing the calm in his eyes. He was not just a stranger. He was a real person, with stories and dreams just like her. The hours passed, and the flight moved closer to its destination. Outside, the sun began to set, painting the clouds with shades of orange and pink. Inside, the passengers settled into their seats, some asleep, others quietly thinking. Marcus closed his eyes briefly and thought about his family. He missed them dearly. The long week away had been hard, but moments like this reminded him why. He worked so hard for the people he loved and for a world that could be better. He also thought about the future. He hoped that one day people like Karen would understand, that they would see past skin color and fear and find the courage to open their hearts. Sarah's thoughts were with Marcus, too. She decided that when the flight landed, she would say something. She wanted to stand with him, to show support for kindness and respect. As the plane began its slow descent, the cabin lights dimmed. Passengers prepared to land, gathering their belongings and stretching tired muscles. The tension that had filled the air earlier was gone, replaced by a quiet hope. Marcus looked around one last time before the plane touched down. He saw the faces of strangers, some wary, some kind, some thoughtful. He knew this flight was more than just a journey through the sky. It was a journey toward understanding. The wheels touched the runway with a gentle bump. The plane slowed, and soon the engines were quiet. Outside, the city lights twinkled in the growing darkness. Marcus stood gathering his things. He felt tired, but also strong. He had faced judgment today, but he had not let it break him. As the passengers moved toward the exit, Sarah approached Marcus with a warm smile. "Thank you for how you handled everything," she said softly. "It wasn't easy," Marcus returned, the smile. Sometimes the best strength is to stay calm. Change starts with small steps. Karen watched from a distance, her heart heavy but thoughtful. Maybe, just maybe, this was a moment she could learn from. The plane doors opened, and the passengers stepped into the cool night air. Outside, the city waited, full of challenges, but also full of hope, and Marcus walked forward, ready for whatever came next. The airplane had just landed, and the passengers were beginning to gather their belongings. The quiet hum of conversations mixed with the soft rustle of bags being packed. Marcus moved slowly down the aisle, his calm demeanor catching the attention of a few people. Among them was Sarah, the young woman who had watched the earlier scene with concern. Sarah had never met Marcus before, but something about the way he handled the situation stayed with her. She admired his patience and quiet strength. As she followed him off the plane, she decided she needed to say something, to show her support. Karen, meanwhile, sat alone, her mind swirling with thoughts. The embarrassment from before had faded into confusion and unease. She realized she had made a mistake, but pride held her back from admitting it openly. She watched as Sarah approached Marcus, and for a moment, Karen felt left out, unsure of what to do next. Sarah caught up to Marcus just outside the plane's exit. The cool air brushed against their faces, carrying the distant sounds of the busy airport. "Excuse me?" Sarah said softly, stepping beside him. "I just wanted to say that what happened back there was wrong. You didn't deserve that." Marcus looked at her with gentle surprise. "Thank you. That means a lot." Sarah smiled, her eyes bright with conviction. "People need to speak up more. I was scared to say anything on the plane, but you handled it so well." Marcus nodded. Sometimes staying calm can be the strongest response. They walked together toward the baggage claim area, their conversation easy and natural. Sarah shared how she wished she could do more to fight against unfairness and hate. Marcus listened carefully and encouraged her. "You don't need to be a hero," he said. "Small acts of kindness and standing up when it matters, that's powerful." As they reached the baggage area, Sarah's phone buzzed with a message. She glanced down and saw that a few people on the plane had noticed what happened. Some were posting about it on social media, praising Marcus's calmness and calling out Karen's behavior. Sarah felt a new sense of purpose. Maybe this can help more people see that racism is real and hurtful. Marcus smiled. Awareness is the first step. Change takes time, but it begins with moments like these. Karen, still nearby, overheard parts of their conversation. She felt a strange pull, a mixture of regret and hope. She wanted to join the conversation, but didn't know how. Suddenly, a voice behind them said, "Karen?" They all turned to see an airport employee approaching. It was James, a kind man who had been helping passengers find their way. "I saw what happened on the plane," James said gently. "I want you to know that we don't tolerate behavior like that here. But I also believe people can change." Karen looked down, feeling the weight of her actions. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't understand. I didn't know." Marcus stepped forward, offering a small, forgiving smile. "Thank you for saying that. Understanding comes with listening." Sarah nodded in agreement. "We all have moments when we're wrong. What matters is what we do next." Karen took a deep breath and looked at Marcus and Sarah. For the first time that day, she felt like she wasn't alone. Maybe she could learn and grow from this experience. As they all waited for their bags, a few passengers who had witnessed the incident approached. One by one, they thanked Marcus for his patience and courage. Some apologized to him directly, showing genuine remorse. Marcus felt humbled. He never wanted praise, only respect and fairness. But today, he saw that people could come together, even after difficult moments. Sarah pulled out her phone. "I'm going to post a message about what I saw today," she said. "We need more voices like this." Marcus smiled warmly. "That's a great idea. Stories can inspire change." Karen listened quietly, her heart softening. She didn't know the future, but she hoped this could be a beginning, a chance to see the world differently. When the last bag appeared on the carousel, the small group said their goodbyes. Sarah and Marcus exchanged numbers, promising to keep in touch. Karen stayed behind for a moment, watching them go. Then, with a deep breath, she walked toward the exit, ready to face her own journey. Outside, the city lights flickered against the dark sky. The airport buzzed with life and movement, just like the world itself, full of challenges, but also full of hope. Marcus, Sarah, and even Karen were part of that hope now, each one carrying a piece of a story that could change hearts and minds, one step at a time. And as they walked away from the airport, none of them knew what the future held. But they knew that today, something had shifted. After the busy rush at the airport, the crowd began to thin. Marcus had just collected his bags when he noticed Karen sitting alone on a nearby bench. Her eyes were fixed on the floor, and her hands nervously twisted a tissue. There was a quiet sadness about her that was different from the anger Marcus had seen earlier. For a moment, Marcus hesitated. He could walk away and leave things as they were, but something inside him urged him to offer a chance, for understanding, for healing. He slowly approached her. "Karen?" Marcus said softly, careful to keep his voice gentle. She looked up, startled at first, then nodded. "I wanted to talk," Marcus continued. "Not about what happened on the plane, but about why it happened." Karen swallowed hard. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. "I acted badly. I was wrong." Marcus gave a small, understanding smile. "I know people sometimes act from fear or pain. It's not easy to face those feelings." Karen looked away, embarrassed. "I guess I've always been afraid of things I don't understand." Marcus nodded. "That's honest. Fear can make people build walls, even when they don't want to." They sat side by side, the noise of the airport around them fading into the background. Karen took a deep breath and began to speak. "When I was young, my family struggled. We didn't have much, and I learned to be careful about people. I saw things on the news, heard stories that scared me. I didn't want to be hurt, so I built walls around myself." Marcus listened closely. "Those walls can protect us, but they can also trap us." Karen's eyes filled with tears. "I know I judged you without knowing you. That was wrong, but it's hard to change." "It is," Marcus agreed. "Change is not instant. It takes time, patience, and a willingness to learn." Karen wiped her tears. "Can people really change, even when they've held on to old fears for a long time?" Marcus looked at her sincerely. "Yes. People can grow, especially when they open their hearts. It's not easy, but it's possible." Karen smiled faintly. "I want to try." Marcus felt a sense of hope rising. He thought about his own journey, the obstacles he had faced, the moments when others had given him a chance. "Sometimes," Marcus said, "the most powerful thing we can do is listen and try to understand. Not just with words, but with our hearts." Karen nodded slowly. "I want to listen, to learn." Marcus looked around and saw other travelers moving past them, busy with their own lives. But in this quiet corner, Something important was happening. A conversation bridging a gap that had seemed too wide to cross. They talked for a long time, sharing stories and experiences. Marcus spoke about his work as an FBI agent, the people he had helped, and the challenges he faced. Karen shared more about her fears, her past, and the moments that had shaped her. With each word, the distance between them lessened. Finally, Karen said, "Thank you for talking to me. I never expected this." Marcus smiled warmly. "Neither did I. But sometimes the hardest conversations are the most needed." As they stood to leave, Karen reached out and shook Marcus's hand firmly. "Maybe this is the start of something new," she said softly. "Maybe it is," Marcus replied. They parted ways, each carrying a small but important change within their hearts. Marcus walked toward the exit, feeling lighter than he had in days. He knew that the road ahead was still full of challenges, but moments like this reminded him why he kept going. Karen watched him go, feeling a quiet determination growing inside her. She was ready to face her fears and learn more about the world. Beyond her walls, outside, the city lights shone brightly against the night sky. Life continued, full of possibilities. And for the first time that evening, Karen felt the hope of a new beginning. The days after the flight passed quietly for Marcus Williams. Back at his home, surrounded by the familiar warmth of his family, he found himself thinking often about the encounter on the plane, the sharp words, the quiet strength, and the surprising conversation that followed. Sitting at his kitchen table one evening, Marcus looked out the window at the peaceful streetlights glowing softly. He thought about Karen, the woman who had humiliated him just days before. But more than anger, he felt something else. A hope that maybe something good could come from that painful moment. Marcus's phone buzzed gently on the table. It was a message from Sarah, the young woman who had stood beside him on the plane. Her words were simple but full of meaning. "You inspire me. Keep being strong." He smiled and typed back, "Thank you, Sarah. Small steps can change the world." Meanwhile, far from Marcus's home, Karen Mitchell sat in her quiet apartment, the city lights blinking through her window. Her mind was a storm of thoughts and feelings. She couldn't stop replaying the flight in her head, the harsh words, the stunned silence of the passengers, and Marcus's calm face. Karen knew she had acted unfairly, but she also felt something new: regret. For the first time in a long while, she wanted to understand, to be better. She reached for her phone and typed a message to a community center she had seen online, a place that offered programs on racial understanding and education. "I want to learn. Is there a class I can join?" Days turned into a week. Karen attended the first session nervously. The room was filled with people from many backgrounds, all eager to listen and share stories. The facilitator spoke gently about empathy, history, and the power of change. Karen listened with open ears, absorbing stories that made her heart ache and grow. She began to see how fear and misunderstanding had shaped her views, and how she could choose a different path. Back at home, Marcus reflected on his own life. He thought about the many people he had helped as an FBI agent, victims of crimes, families in pain, communities in need. He realized that justice wasn't just about law enforcement. It was also about kindness, patience, and education. One afternoon, Marcus received a call from Sarah. She wanted to organize a small event in their city, a talk about kindness, courage, and standing up to prejudice. Marcus agreed, seeing it as a chance to share his story and inspire others. The event was held in a community hall, filled with faces of all ages and backgrounds. Marcus spoke honestly about his experiences, about the pain of being judged unfairly, and about the strength it took to stay calm. Sarah shared her thoughts too, explaining how witnessing the incident had changed her. The audience listened quietly, some nodding, some wiping tears. After the talk, people approached Marcus and Sarah to share their own stories. Some spoke of moments when they had felt judged. Others shared hopes for a more understanding future. Among the crowd, Karen stood silently. She had come to the event after hearing about it through the community center. Watching Marcus speak, she felt a deep respect and a growing desire to change. Later, Marcus noticed Karen and recognized her. Their eyes met briefly, and Marcus gave her a small nod of acknowledgement, a silent acceptance and forgiveness. Karen smiled softly, feeling lighter than she had in years. That night, both Marcus and Karen lay in their beds, thinking about the journey ahead. Change was never easy, and old habits did not disappear overnight. But they both knew one thing for sure: every step forward mattered. Outside, the world continued to turn, filled with challenges and opportunities. But in hearts and minds, something had begun, a quiet movement toward understanding, respect, and hope. And sometimes that was enough to start changing everything. Weeks passed and life continued its steady rhythm. Marcus returned to his work with a renewed sense of purpose. The incident on the plane was no longer just a painful memory, but a reminder of why his work mattered, not just in law enforcement, but in building bridges between people. At the FBI office, Marcus noticed a small change in himself. He listened more deeply to his colleagues, noticing their stories and struggles. He began sharing his own experiences, not to complain, but to open a door for honest conversations about race and respect. One day, Marcus received a message from Sarah. She had been organizing a series of community events focused on unity and understanding, inviting people from different backgrounds to come together and talk openly. "I think you should come speak again," Sarah wrote. "People want to hear your story," Marcus agreed without hesitation. He understood that sharing his journey was important, not just for himself, but for everyone seeking change. Meanwhile, Karen's world was also shifting. She had continued attending classes at the community center, eager to learn and grow. Each session challenged her beliefs and encouraged self-reflection. She met people who shared their stories that opened her eyes and touched her heart. Karen began volunteering at the center, helping organize events and supporting others who were also learning. Her fear was slowly replaced by curiosity, and her anger by understanding. One afternoon, Karen was invited to speak at a small gathering about her journey. Standing before a room of strangers, she felt nervous but honest. "I used to judge people without knowing them," she said quietly. "I was afraid and angry, but I've learned that we are all connected and that understanding can change everything." The audience listened with respect and encouragement. Some nodded in agreement, some smiled, and a few quietly wiped away tears. Back at the FBI office, Marcus prepared for his next community talk. He thought about the challenges ahead, but also the hope he had seen grow in so many faces. On the day of the event, the hall was filled once again with a diverse crowd. Marcus spoke not only about his experiences, but about the importance of empathy and patience. After the talk, many came forward to share their own stories. Some spoke of past mistakes and the lessons learned. Others expressed hope for a future where people could live without fear or judgment. Among the crowd, Karen stood quietly, feeling a deep connection to the words and the people around her. She caught Marcus's eye, and this time, she walked toward him with confidence. "Thank you for sharing your story," Karen said. "It helped me see things differently." Marcus smiled warmly. "Thank you for being brave enough to change." Their conversation was brief but meaningful, a quiet moment of understanding between two people who had started as strangers but were now connected by a shared journey. Sarah, watching nearby, felt proud of them both. She saw how the power of dialogue and kindness could bring people together, even after difficult beginnings. That evening, Marcus returned home feeling hopeful. He knew the path toward change was slow and sometimes difficult, but he believed it was worth every step. Karen also felt a new strength growing inside her. She knew she still had much to learn, but she was ready to face the future with an open heart. Life moved on, full of challenges, but also full of moments where understanding took root and grew. And sometimes, just sometimes, those small moments could change everything. The seasons changed slowly, bringing new colors and fresh air. Marcus felt a quiet joy in the simple things, the laughter of his children, the warmth of family dinners, and the satisfaction of work that made a difference. His talks at community events had become more frequent. More people were coming to listen, eager to understand and share their own stories. Marcus often thought about the woman on the plane, Karen, and how much had changed since that day. Karen's life had also transformed, in ways she never expected. She had found new friendships at the community center, and a sense of purpose in helping others learn about respect and kindness. The walls she had built around her heart were slowly coming down. One crisp autumn afternoon, Marcus received an invitation to a special event, a community celebration of diversity and unity. Sarah had organized it, hoping to bring everyone together in a joyful way. Marcus arrived early and found the hall already buzzing with energy. Families, neighbors, and friends filled the room, sharing food, stories, and smiles. Colorful decorations hung from the ceiling, and music played softly in the background. As Marcus looked around, he spotted Karen talking with a small group of people. She looked happy and at ease, her face glowing with confidence. When their eyes met, Karen smiled and waved him over. Marcus walked toward her, feeling a warm connection that had grown stronger over time. "This is wonderful," Marcus said, gesturing to the crowd. "You've done an amazing job bringing everyone together." Karen nodded. "It feels like a new beginning. I never imagined I'd be part of something like this." They stood side by side, watching as people danced, laughed, and shared stories. Marcus felt a deep sense of hope. Later, Sarah approached them with a bright smile. "I wanted to thank both of you. This event shows what's possible when people come together." Marcus and Karen exchanged looks, feeling proud and grateful. The celebration continued into the evening, filled with music and joy. For many, it was more than just a party. It was a symbol of change, of healing, and of new friendships. As the night grew late, Marcus and Karen stepped outside for a quiet moment. "I want to thank you," Karen said sincerely, "for not giving up on me, for showing me that people can change." Marcus smiled. "It takes courage to change. You found that courage." They talked about the future, about continuing to build bridges, to listen, and to support each other. Before they parted, Marcus handed Karen a small notebook. "Here, write your thoughts, your journey. It might help others." Karen accepted it with a grateful smile. "I will." As they said goodbye, both felt a sense of peace and possibility. Marcus returned home that night with a heart full of hope. He knew that the road ahead would still have challenges, but moments like these made everything worthwhile. Karen, too, felt ready for whatever came next. She understood that change was a journey, not a destination, and she was committed to walking that path. Outside, the city lights twinkled softly, and the world moved forward, sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, but always toward new beginnings. And in the hearts of two people who had once been strangers, a shared story had grown into something powerful, a story of understanding, courage, and hope. The end of their old chapters was the start of a new story, one filled with kindness and the promise of a better tomorrow.